To me, what I've discovered is if you want to change someone's life or change a community, agriculture is probably one of the best ways you can do that. My name's David Edson, and the business here is called the Fresh Start Center. Before I started working out here, I actually worked internationally and did agriculture projects in developing communities around the globe. Most recently it was in Syria with the big refugee camp out there. And when I came stateside, started working at a food program here to help people that are food insecure and homeless. It just really didn't sit well with us, the amount of fresh food that was available to people, because it really doesn't exist for people who are just barely struggling to get by. A lot of times fresh food that was donated to our food program was rotten, and we had to sift through a lot of that to get to stuff that barely passed by. And we wanted to change that because we really believe that fresh food should be a basic human right, but it's become more of a privilege to people who can afford it. We also wanted to give an opportunity for people that are considered unemployable or people that are find themselves in a really tough spot and they just need help transitioning out. So we wanted to have a place for them to come and work, learn some skills, develop, meet mentors and counselors and things like that. And then we help plug them into full-time employment once they leave here. One of the ways that we farm out here is called aquaponics. And we have an aquaponics greenhouse. It's about 3,000 square feet. And the way aquaponics works in a nutshell is basically we have a tank full of tilapia fish. And those tilapia, they eat an organic diet. And then they produce waste. And that wastewater, if you've ever had an aquarium as at home or as a kid, if you don't clean out your fish tank, it's going to kill all your fish eventually. But all that stuff that kills the fish, the plants love. So if you were to actually pull out a head of lettuce from the dirt, if you were dirt farming it, these would be a lot thicker and go a lot deeper because they have to go a lot farther to get the nutrients and the moisture in the soil. In here, everything's right on top, so they stay really wiry and small. Using that method, we're able to grow about 200% more food per square foot using 1/10 of the water resources of in-ground farming. And we also sent our product off and we found that what we grow is on average, it has about 180% higher nutritional value versus the same items at the grocery store. And the reason for that primarily is because it goes from here to people within a day or two. Produce, even organic produce at the grocery store, takes up to 2 weeks to a year to get there. And by that time, it loses a lot of its beneficial stuff. It is a 1972 Winnebago that we converted into a chicken coop. And part of the thought process there was when we were looking at what it would cost to build a coop to the size that we wanted, it was going to be about $3,000 to do that. And part of what we want to do is try to help people to think outside the box a little bit and what they have around them, what they can use around them to grow food for themselves. And so we found this Winnebago on Facebook Marketplace for $500. It still drives. We brought it out here, gutted it, and turned it into a coop. The chickens love it, and it's nicely insulated and nice cushy floor and all that. The economy has kind of taken its toll on the people that we serve, I'd say, by and large. Poorer communities are kind of set up to be poor, and there's not really much opportunity for them to get out of that. We're trying to change that and be more intentional on changing the individual. When we were surveying and kind of trying to figure out fresh food availability with families, I talked to a single mother in our program. She had fled an abusive relationship and was living in a car with her kids. And I was asking her what her biggest struggle is to get fresh food for her kids. And she said when she goes into a grocery store and a single bell pepper costs the same as a 12-pack of ramen, there's no choice, there's no debate what's going to keep her kids full for the night, and she's going to go with that ramen. There's been a recent spike in homelessness and food insecurity here. So just in the area that we service right now, there's about 100,000 people who struggle with hunger. about 35,000 of those are children. And that number has grown and kind of ebbs and flows a little bit, but it's on an ebb right now, and it's growing. In poorer communities, we found that children are 1.7 times more likely to struggle with obesity than their middle-class peers. And then with that, you have things like diabetes, cancer, heart disease, high cholesterol. It all comes with that. So, yeah, I think that economy directly affects the population that we really hone in on. The food that gets donated to the food banks is by larger corporations that get nice tax breaks for that. A lot of that food is your highly processed, high calorie, low nutrition foods, things like mac and cheese, Pop-Tarts, stuff like that. So kind of what the conversation has been starting with the city is we have these vacant lots around town in these neighborhoods, and it was kind of a what if we started doing urban farming in those areas and have marketplaces attached to them where people can come and get affordable produce, you know, with their food stamps. And the way that we farm, the way that we do stuff here, it makes it so that we don't have to charge ridiculous prices for produce, because it's no pesticides, no chemical fertilizers. We do permaculture and some different things to keep all those costs way down. So we can give it to people for a lot less. So since we launched this, we've actually had offers to come out to 5 other states to implement what we do, to kind of just get more food and job opportunities to people who need it the most. And even here in our city, there's opportunity for us to do more urban farm type stuff downtown and different areas in poor neighborhoods where people otherwise will not have access. We want to duplicate this around the United States because every community has people that struggle with hunger. Every community has a homeless and food insecure population. And every community struggles to feed and take care of those people sustainably.
I think we want to do what's effective. What's effective is coaching and development, flexibility for all, not just those at the top, transparency and a sense of purpose in the work that we do. And if it strikes you that these are things everybody wants, you're exactly right. I think millennials want what we all want, but they're willing to ask for it earlier in their careers, and they will leave organizations that don't provide these things. So what would happen if each of us did for today's young people, our future leaders, what my internship manager did for me all those years ago? What would happen if we supported millennials instead of shaming them? If we supported them wholeheartedly, unabashedly, enthusiastically? Let's find out.